Hey folks, your OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the Jansite wireless Bluetooth speaker. This is a mini speaker that's the size of half of a soda can and sells for under $25 on Amazon. An average price for this type of tiny portable speakers that's fairly easy to take with you when traveling, but it's not super rugged, nor does it deliver the loudest volume or sound, of course, but it's decent enough for having it as a companion to a laptop or a smartphone. You can see that it uses a micro USB port for charging. It charges up in under 2 hours. Packaging here kind of interesting that it looks like a die symbol, so you can pull out the foam on the very top to have access to the speaker on the inside. And then we'll take a closer look at the design in a second. Accessories are fairly minimal. You have access to the micro USB cable for charging, and again there is an auxiliary cable if you don't want to use wireless Bluetooth. So the Bluetooth connectivity here is rated at roughly 10 meters or 33 feet, which is quite average, and so is the overall design of the speaker. It's not anything revolutionary or we haven't seen before, but it is fairly classy and looks nicely built. Now, what looks like aluminum is actually plastic on this particular model, so it's a lot more lightweight than I originally thought it would be. It's also a mono speaker as opposed to a stereo speaker, as you may have guessed. There are a few logos and brandings on the top, which I'm not a huge fan of, but overall, again, a clean presentation, and the front here is made out of this fabric material, which is kind of interesting. On the side here, you have access to the auxiliary input. There's an LED indicator light, micro USB for power, and the other side features a microphone. So you can use this to answer phone calls and use it as a speakerphone for conferences, which is a nice feature once you have it paired to an Android or iOS device. Now, unfortunately, all the controls are located at the base of the speaker, which is a complaint that I usually have on some of these newer speakers coming out. They tend to relocate the buttons for the sake of making the design look cleaner, but at the same time it's harder to access without having to flip the speaker over. So these controls include one for power. You can hold this for a few seconds. And there's also one for starting the Bluetooth pairing, which you tap on for a few additional seconds, and the light will start to strobe and flash. That means that you are in the pairing mode. You can see the battery here is 1,800 milliamp hours, which is really not bad for such a small speaker. It's going to last you for about 6 hours of continuous audio playback before you need to recharge it again, which is actually on the longer side of the spectrum. A rubber feet also prevents this particular speaker from sliding around on a surface or a desk. So next, let's turn it on and do a quick sound test. Pairing the speaker is pretty simple. Just open up settings on your phone or tablet and connect it to the device that's called Win. So let's do a quick audio playback next. Actually at about half of the maximum volume at the moment, and it's already quite loud. Alright, so from that quick audio sample, you guys can hear that it really does pack quite a punch, surprisingly, for such a small size. This is actually one of the better mini Bluetooth speakers that I've tested as far as the audio performance is concerned. It really does pack a bass in the lower frequencies, which I was surprised to find, since there isn't a passive radiator on here, but there's really, again, you can hear the drum beats and the bass drop when you're listening to music, so it comes across quite well and seems to actually perform better and louder than some Bluetooth speakers maybe twice the size, so it really does a good job here. I was pleasantly surprised, just by seeing the build here. It's a bit more plasticky than I anticipated, but the sound here really is quite loud, it's clean, it's rich, and you can hear that when I pause the music, it's completely silent. There's no static or distortion vibration, which is common in these low-cost Bluetooth speakers, but this one seems to actually perform quite well. One thing I will say though is that there's a little bit of latency, where if you are playing back a movie, the audio is maybe a split second behind, so it's not going to be as instantaneous as using it as a wired speaker. That's maybe attributed to the Bluetooth chip on here, but if you're watching thrillers or action films, it might not be the most suitable speaker in the world for that. But if you're listening to music, either it's rock music, pop music, classical music, it surprisingly does a great job. Now again, the speaker grill is on the very top. As you heard when I covered it up, it got a bit more muffled. So the sides here, which is made out of fabric, is just for decorative purposes. It doesn't produce a 360-degree sound, although it really does, get quite loud, which is quite impressive. The microphone on here is also good enough for doing test calls with, although I would recommend being indoors since it's not a noise canceling mic, so if you're in outdoor environments, it picks up the ambient sound just a little bit. And when we place this next to this phone, you can see that really is a tiny speaker. This phone has a 5.5-inch screen. You can see it's roughly half of the size of that, so it's easy to take with you. It's the size of a small or a mini water bottle into your backpack or into a luggage when you're on the go. One thing I will note though is that it is not waterproof. It's also not shockproof, so make sure you don't take it to too much extreme conditions or extreme outdoor activities, and you should be fine. So you can check out more details about this in our official written review, but for now this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This has been our quick video review of the Jansite Mini Bluetooth speaker.